Welcome to Azigos, the Truckers Lounge, where we talk raw, real, and unfiltered about the trucking industry, the good, the bad, and the broken. But we don't just leave it there. We empower those ready to reclaim and drive the future of the trucking industry. Today, we are discussing dispatchers and whether or not carriers should use one. Are they an ally? Are they a lamb? Or a wolf in sheep's clothing? So come on in for today's discussion. And the lounge, that's Azigos, the Truckers Lounge. So how are you doing today, KT?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I had a incredible week last week behind the wheel, and I'm enjoying myself being here so I can share my experiences and what I know with my fellow big truck operators. So yeah, I'm happy to be here, and hoping we can enlighten each other.
Okay, awesome. As I mentioned today, we're going to be discussing whether or not carriers should use a dispatcher.
Right.
We'll talk about, first of all, what they even do, how they differ from brokers, and what are some compelling reasons to help you decide whether or not to use a dispatcher. Does that sound about right?
Yeah. So
Okay.
if I can get more details, yeah, the dispatcher, they normally find the loads, for the truck, and they usually route the truck, that's more, streamlined so you to be able to keep your, wheels turning.
Okay. And which is a little bit different from the role of a broker, right?
Yeah, a broker is more the in between the shippers and receivers and the trucking company. The dispatcher is more of the in between the drivers and the broker.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the main things that a dispatcher does is they negotiate loads on behalf of the carrier, right? So do they have access to the same load boards as carriers? Do they usually have more of an inside track? And yeah, just talk a little bit more about, their process for negotiating the loads, and also definitely talk about the money piece, because last week, if you watched the episode, but if you didn't, go back and watch it. We talked about when you're a carrier versus an owner operator, there are different ways you have to slice up the piece of the pie. So talk a
Right.
little bit about when the carriers are using a dispatcher, how much of that pie they have to share with the dispatcher.
Yeah. Normally, when you have a dispatcher, then normally they're gonna require you to give 10% of whatever loads that they provide for you. And so, like I said previously, they will go on to a load board or brokers they have worked with before, and they will find loads and negotiate your the price of that load. But one thing about it, this is all things that you could do for yourself if you're a carrier. So you don't necessarily need a dispatcher to do these things for you. And then they'll route your truck or whatever. But once again, these are things you can do for yourself. And so while a broker really, this is irrelevant to an owner operator, because if you're an owner operator, you're already working up under somebody else's authority and they're responsible for your loads. So this is really something concerning the carrier.
Okay.
And basically, from my advice, if you're not comfortable of negotiating and finding your own loads, then instead of really just maybe going the dispatcher route, you might need to just go the owner operator route.
All right. And talk about the piece of the pie. How much does the average dispatcher want for negotiating loads?
The average dispatcher, yes, they would like to have 10%.
And how does a carrier even find a dispatcher? Are there dispatcher companies or who offer the services,
Well,
or how do they find them?
more than likely, you won't have to find them.
Mhm.
They will find you. Usually, when you register your trucking business, you'll go into an algorithm, and usually they'll reach out to you to see if they could offer you their services. Yes.
Okay. Now, I know a lot of them may promote a flat fee, a flat cut from the rate, but do they typically even have hidden fees or bumper fees to try to get even more on top of the 10% that they're usually asking for?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You're gonna have hidden fees because one thing, my young entrepreneurs, you have to realize, business is cutthroat. It's cutthroat, and so with that, it's all about you winning the most that you can win, and that's gonna be at the expense of the ignorant or the players that are not even in the game, they're just consumers. So if I'm going to win, but this is the rule of thumb of business. If the more I win, the more somebody else has to lose. So you just keep that mindset. It's not a situation where everybody wins.
Mhm.
Everybody gonna make the most. For me to make more and more, somebody has to lose more and more. And so when you have things like dispatchers, as a third party, I'm not talking about dispatchers that you may to help hire from within your company because you have multiple trucks and you in your truck yourself. I'm talking about you hiring a third party uh entity that's really just going to take something from your pot without any responsibilities.
Okay. And given that they're negotiating these rates on your behalf, are dispatchers typically transparent about the rate?
Um,
Do
yeah,
they have to
they
be?
transparent about the rate because the rate really doesn't take away because they're just going to get a percentage.
Mhm.
But their thing is they're trying to negotiate the most amount of money, you know what I'm saying, for the load because of course that means their percentages raise. They're
Mhm.
not going to take into account how long you might be at this particular facility. They're not going to take into account where you're going if you know the area that you might be delivering to, it might be at the top of a mountain, or it might be down by the sea. They're not going to take into consideration these different terrains that might cause stress on your truck. Their whole goal is looking for a large sum of money, no matter what you have to go through to get that money.
Okay, so really you raise a lot of good points about that. Is really what you're saying is not all loads are created equal, right?
Definitely not.
Right. It really matters if the load makes sense financially.
Yeah,
Does it if it makes sense with fuel, if it makes sense even with dwell time, which we've talked about,
right,
are you
right,
going to get in and out of that shipping or receiving facility in a timely manner to get to where you need to be?
right.
You need to know whether or not it makes sense as far as, the facility itself. Are you going to have to get into a tight spot? Do you risk doing damage to your equipment? Those are elements and factors a great dispatcher would know. Do you find that they care about those things, and do those type of dispatchers even exist?
Absolutely not. Those dispatchers don't exist. Once again, they don't make money unless they can get you to take a load, no matter what the circumstances, which basically to me is building a house on sand.
Mhm.
Because if you are a carrier, a small carrier, you can't last in this business just taking any type of load just because it's paying.
So there has to be strategy in load selection.
Right. The devil is in the details.
And the average dispatcher isn't going to care about the strategy that works and makes sense financially for you to keep your truck on the road is what I'm hearing.
Right. Those strategies are not of their interest. Their interest is getting a 10%.
Okay, now for the sake of argument and to play devil's advocate, I can imagine hearing carriers say, but hey, if I'm in a bind, if I'm stuck in the middle of no man's land and I need to do some maintenance on my truck, I can't deal with reaching a shipper or receiver. It's an advantage to have a dispatcher to rearrange and reschedule things on with the logistics. Maybe I need to reschedule my appointment time while I take care of my maintenance. I mean, in that type of scenario, wouldn't having a dispatcher be a good advantage?
Absolutely not. Because really you're just to me, you're playing yourself. You're a worker trying to impersonate a boss. The trucking business, fellas or ladies, it's for made men. It's for bosses. It's for hustlers. If you're not the type to take an interest in every facet of your business, then it's nothing wrong with just being a worker, a company driver, or even this, you don't necessarily have to be a carrier. You can be a owner operator. If you don't want to be worried about, dealing with managing and time management or, being a project manager type of person and you don't want to deal with the business side, the administration side, you want to maximize your career or have your own truck, then just be an owner operator. But it's no advantage to you to get and own your own trucking business. And then when it comes to the administrative side, you don't know anything about it. There's no advantage to you. And dispatching, that is a main part of you knowing everything, about the trucking business. You don't want to be out here ignorant. You want to learn as much about the industry as you possibly can.
And how would one really the best way to get that type of experience is what?
Experience is the best teacher. You're gonna have to go through some things. It ain't if you don't risk it, you're not gonna get the biscuit. So basically you have to bump your head out here and deal with these different type of situations that, cause you to lose a little money here or make a little more money here. And you're not gonna gain that knowledge without experiencing some of these things head on. So it's imperative that you learn the art of negotiating. You need to know, what parts that load that's being solicited to you that you can leverage to be able to make more money.
Okay.
Right.
So, is it fair to say you're not necessarily pro dispatcher?
No, I'm not pro dispatcher because my thing is it's just a section or a category that was created for somebody to make money off of you because really they're not offering you anything extra that you could get by just being an owner operator.
All right.
At least as being an owner operator, if you work up on somebody else's authority or a major company and they hire owner operators, at least they know they taking a large part of the pie, but they will offer you things like gas surplus. They will offer you things. They will front you money in case your truck break down. It ain't all just a take.
Mhm.
You follow me? But what can a dispatch offer you if everything don't go right? If some things go wrong, what can they offer you to be like, okay, I'm in this with you. I'm gonna share some of this burden. They only can offer if the only thing everything has to go right. And
Mhm.
if everything does go right, they still taking 10% of your earnings just by picking up the phone. Really, something that you could do for yourself, big driver.
Okay. That's something to think about. And then let's talk about what happens when things do go wrong. When you maybe perhaps there you miss an appointment, or maybe there's miscommunication between the shipper and the receiver and the dispatcher gives you erroneous information. And who does that impact more? Does that impact the dispatcher more, or does that impact you and your company more?
What you mean? Who does it affect more?
Mhm.
No, it's only going to affect
Right.
the person with the authority, with the MC number.
Mhm.
It's not going to affect the dispatcher because the dispatcher don't have any type of regulations.
Mhm.
They're not recognized by the Department of Transportation. So it's nothing that could go against them to make them better or make them worse as a company for you.
And to highlight one more point about dispatchers too, given that the way they make money is through volumes,
Right.
have you heard of horror stories of dispatchers, booking loads on behalf of carriers, knowing that there's a high probability that carrier is not going to make it to that facility by the time, or they're aware of the closing times of that facility, and then that carrier end up getting stuck with a load on his or her truck trailer.
All those things, all of the above.
Mhm.
Cause the dispatcher, they're like a used car salesman. They just trying to sell you on the idea of giving you some of your money. So they will double dispatch, or they will make promises to you. They're gonna tell you can make X amount of dollars a week. They're gonna do all type of things because if they don't deliver, it's really no accountability.
Mhm.
Like I said before, I don't see the benefit of having a dispatcher because even if I can understand if you're a new carrier and you having that anxiety of negotiating or feeling like, you're where do I go to get the loads? I mean, I get all that, but guess what? The only thing that's going to alleviate that is for you to do it and for you to take a couple of losses. I don't believe in losses. I believe in lessons. So yeah, you need to learn those lessons because I guarantee when you do particular loads and you see what you might have, the trials and tribulations of you doing certain loads, I guarantee the next time you gonna know how much money you gonna expect for you to do that same load.
Okay. So really the take home message is, if you're really ready to be the boss and be a carrier, you have to be all in.
I
There's
like that.
there's no one foot in, one foot out. You have to be all in. And you can do it. And there are ways to do it, and you can do it successfully because there are people who are doing it successfully.
Exactly. And so really, and that's what this platform is all about. It's about opening up dialogue, learning about other people's experiences. Yeah, I'm in front of the camera, but like, in the comment section, man, drivers, companies, is, share your horror stories or share your triumphs, because one thing that has happened to our industry, you know, one thing I know, technology, everything supposed to be progressive, but the loss of the CB,
Mhm.
where we're just interacting in real time, and that has cost us, for as industry, for us being able to communicate with each other. More times than not, when you're dealing with social media, they just trying to do things to make you laugh. That's cool and everything. We want to keep our spirits up, but it's not individuals out there who actually, in the trenches that can help you and help the industry as a whole. Because as I said before, it's about big trucks, big profits.
Mm-hmm.
We supposed to be able to take care at least of 3-4 families. That was the original, that was the foundation of being a driver, because of the sacrifices that are made with us being on that road. So with us just not, interacting with each other, we not really recognizing the weak points and being able to come together to kind of mitigate those weak points.
Mm-hmm.
Too much sacrifices. It's a truck driver that down the road every day, right? We on all type of, medications. We eating bad. We missing a lot of important events and situations when it pertains to our family, and we would make everything go. So our disposable income should be up here. We shouldn't be in this industry just paying bills. And the only way we're going to be able to get back to what it really is that we got to start sharing real life situations with each other and not just making each other laugh.
All right. There you have it. So thank you for joining us for another great episode of Azigos, the Truckers Lounge. Please comment, like, and please subscribe to our channel to help it grow. Any closing thoughts, KT?
Yeah, if you learn anything today, I know this kind of a short video is that if you a worker, there's nothing to be ashamed about that. Just be a company driver. But if you a boss and you running your own trucking company, you have no need for a dispatcher, because everything the dispatcher's supposed to know is what you need to know if you want to make sure your business reach the ultimate success and the goals you have set for yourself.
All right. There you have it. Thank you. Until next time, we'll see you in the lounge. That's Azigos, the Truckers Lounge.
Know before you go.
Know before you go.
Absolutely.
See you next time.
Yes.